Hey cats, it's your midsole man Eddbud here. A while back I did a video where I have my best race shoes for each common race distance, and the viewers have been on to me for ages to do a refresh of that one, so of course I'm well up for that, like a pig in foam. We're going to go through 5k, 10k, the half marathon and the full marathon distance. Loads to get through. It's a really big script this one, so let's get to it. Thanks for joining me on the channel, everybody. It's really appreciated. Do hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like too. It really helps us out as well if you drop us a comment as well with your race shoe selections down below. Hit us up with a super thanks as well. Become a member if you want to support the channel on a more sort of frequent basis. Danke schön. So we're going to kick off with the classic 5k, all out, hold on for dear life kind of thing. For 5k, I think I want something that's a little bit more minimal in terms of cushion. It's got to be on the lighter side of the scales. So for me, I instantly dismiss some of those sort of bigger, more foamy shoes. Things like the ALPHAFLY 3 and stuff. I did test that recently on a park run, which was a course with loads of turns actually, some quite sharp corners, which cost me a few seconds, but I wasn't far off 20 minutes and I was well happy with that. So maybe that is a good shoe for me for 5k. I'm still not convinced about that. First shoe that comes to mind has got to be the TAKUMI Sen from Adidas. I've tried out loads of these right back to the 6, I think, and now we're on the 10, I believe. It's super light, it's super nimble. I think if you were gym carry, then you'd say it fits like a glove. Outsole as well with the Continental stuff here is superbly grippy. The other thing I love about the TAKUMI Sen model from Adidas is that you can use it on the track as well. It just feels like it's at home there. You haven't got this massive stack of foam. Feels nice and responsive, and as super shoes go, I think a lot of lighter, sort of more nimble runners perhaps could get a lot out of this one, right up to the half marathon distance perhaps. I think it's ace, especially for when you're doing reps or intervals in training and on the hills as well. The lightness of this shoe definitely makes it one for my top 3 5k shoes. And the great thing about it is you can pick up loads of pairs of this or the 8 or 9 for quite a cheap price as well. Really good prices, around about £100. I think that's great value for this. What we got next? For that 5k distance, I think the Metaspeed Edge Paris from Asics has got to be included. Again, I found the low weight of this one really outstanding. Kind of astonishing really how they've managed to get this much cushion but with such a low weight. There's great grip here from this sort of stretch design that they've got on the outsole, and the bounce from the midsole is just unbelievable really. I found it really engaging at 5k pace. For me, that's around about 6 minutes 30 per mile. I did find the Metaspeed Edge Paris a little bit better and faster in terms of turnover, which at 5k for me, it means I've got to increase the cadence a little bit. I've got quite a long stride, so I find myself running in a slightly different way perhaps at a 5k or 10k pace. Just found this one was better for me at 5k speed over the Metaspeed Sky Paris. I think it's down to the plate position. This one's a little bit more, I say this tongue-in-cheek, but traditional in terms of the plate placement, with the plate coming down a little bit closer to the outsole in the forefoot area. Just seems to fit better into my 5k operation. Think cadence rather than air time. So that would be my second choice for the 5k. Now, call me crazy, but the lightness and the curvature of the forefoot of the shoe in the Endorphin Elite from Saucony makes it another great option for me for 5k. Now, yes, I know it's a mammoth shoe. The midsole stack is humongous on this one, but it is crazy light, and I find the Power Run HG foam in this shoe a lot more responsive than Power Run PB. There isn't quite the squash here. It's kind of a faster sort of return, and I think that benefits me when I'm getting more steps in. The harder I hit down on that forefoot area, the more it seems to sort of spring me forward. You might say I'm crazy, you might say that I've lost it, but I know this one's geared up for the marathon, but for me it works better on 5k. I mean, it's a very expensive 5k shoe, yes, but hey, you know, I tell it like it is. I find at 5k pace, I want less squash, I want less compression, and that just seems to propel me forward a little bit better. The upper's completely bonkers on this shoe. I like how they've removed loads of elements. If you're into programming and stuff, there's certainly some decomposition going on here. They've got rid of stuff that just doesn't really function or do anything and left only the good stuff in. So that's my third and final shoe on my 5k selection. On to 10k now, and I've got to include the Metaspeed Sky Paris. I have my best 10k times in this shoe in 2024. PB earlier in April 2024 at the Easter Bunny event in Yeovilton, and then an almost identical time over the 10k at the Martok event in June. It's bouncy, yet it's engaging, and allows me just to increase that stride length a little bit more, which I start to do on 10k through to sort of marathon pace. It's another plated shoe that I found to be very exciting and sort of fun to run in. It's sort of wildly light as well. I don't know how ASICs do it. The only way perhaps it could be improved is by having a slightly less generous toe box here, as it ended up being a little bit baggy as I start to tighten up the laces, cinch them in. And the other drawback, I suppose, is the durability. The midsole foam does take a bit of a pounding, as does some of the paint, which is peeling away here. I'd love to get an all-white version of these with no paint on the midsole, just the pure foam and nothing else. But it's certainly been one of my favourite shoes to utilise over 2024, especially at that 10k distance. Those PBs speak volumes, don't they? I think I've got to include the Zoomfly 6 here. I think this is a banger of a shoe. I know it's a little bit more weighty than some of these super shoes out there, but this has got a hell of a lot under the hood. I found it great running at various different paces in this shoe. It's a real range master. I think if you're going to be doing a 10k, perhaps over the winter months as well, I think the Zoomfly 6 could work out very well for you. The grip's fantastic here, and that plate really does give you a nice engaging ride. It's not like super squashy or anything, just a nice controlled, consistent sort of feel, and it does really feel like a race shoe again that you can utilise, rather than the Zoomfly models always feeling like sort of poor relations to Nike's top tier trainers. I think at the price these come in at as well, you just cannot lose. I'm seriously considering picking up another pair, maybe the Kipchoge ones. There's a load of banging colourways out there for the Zoomfly 6. That's in there for my 10k selection. And another one here that's a little bit more responsive. It does have some nice squash to it, but the Mac X2, it's really blown me away this year in 2024. One of my favourite shoes. It's super smooth in terms of operation, and it goes through the gears really nicely as well. Where you want something that's stable without that all-out squash, but it still feels nice and nimble and engaging to run in. The upper is poetry in motion. It's just so good in terms of the amount of room that you've got through the toe box here. The laces are banging, they're just right, they never come undone. Easy to get a good lockdown in this one. And of course you've got a fair old wodge of foam back in the heel. If you're somebody who's standing sort of mid to forefoot, then you're really going to benefit from this shoe. It's just such a smooth operator. So not the lightest again, but one of the more responsive shoes out there. I think it has to be in my 10k recommendations. For the half marathon, I've got to include the Metaspeed Sky Paris again, a shoe that has a perfect blend of responsiveness and bounce, and you've got to be very controlled over the half marathon distance as well. You don't want to be going out too fast. Maintaining that perfect pace strategy is the key really to getting a PB. The upper, perhaps at the half marathon distance, a little bit more forgiving. There's a little bit more room. The grip great for road and pavement racing, and if you're running an event with some more elevation too, I found this one fantastic due to that flatter plate. Almost feels like you're flying up the hills. It compresses down a little bit and then sort of powers you forward. It's almost like you can power walk up hills in this shoe. This is the shoe for my current PB at 1 hour 31 for the half marathon. So I'm getting closer to 90. I'm almost there. Again, the only downside here is the durability of the foam. It does not like moist conditions. I found that was very detrimental to its condition. So for the half marathon, Metaspeed Sky Paris gotta be in there. I would be inclined to include the Deviate Nitro Elite 3 here from Puma as well. Performed really well for me at a recent event down in Bournemouth. Again, it's on the lines of the same weight as the ASICS models I've included in today's video, but with a slightly more traditional plate placement. The Puma though has super soft compressive foam with this Nitro Elite material. It's a new formula which they've also included in one of the other top tier race shoes as well, and I find that the softer foams seem to do better for me as the race distance increases. It wouldn't be my choice for like a 5k, I just feel it's just too soft and squashy for that. I think it's more advantageous to a lighter runner like me as the distance increases. I think the only drawback on this one really is availability right now. People keep asking me, where are they? Well, just can't seem to find any pairs myself. The durability on Puma shoes is always fantastic. I also found that in the Farstar Nitro Elite 2 at 100 miles. That shoe looked barely used. I think the stock laces aren't great either. These are a pair from my Liberate Nitros. The stock ones are just a little bit too flexible, and I found these gave me a much better lockdown over the top of the foot. So yeah, very few of these knocking around. I think the price is great. Perhaps that's why whenever they appear, people are buying them up straight away. To get a super shoe of this quality under 200 quid, I think is a bit of a rarity these days. Well, they are quite rare. So that's my second shoe for the half marathon distance. Half marathon wise, I think the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4 has got to be in the running for me. I think Saucony have adjusted this shoe very subtly by adding in a layer of the Power Run HG foam directly under your foot on top of the main base midsole foam of Power Run PB. So you've got a nice balance there of sort of more firm and responsive stuff on top of the very sort of cushioned, squashy Power Run PB. I think maybe some people found the stability of the Endorphin Pro 3 just a little bit too soft. I think they got it just right here in the Endorphin Pro 4 for the half marathon distance at least. It's proved to be very durable. This type of foam where you've got this pellet based approach just seems to last the test of time a little bit better. You could say it's perhaps a slightly more conservative approach, but it does seem to work. It's still very light and in the ballpark in terms of the weight, with all the other super shoes at least. When you look at the approach, it's actually not all that dissimilar to what Adidas were doing with Boost material, which, let's face it, from a value for money perspective, is going to mean that you've got a shoe that does the business for more miles than perhaps some of the competitors. I love the design of this one as well. It's an absolute winner. Again, I've put in some different laces here just with a little bit less flex. Everybody includes these really stretchy laces on some of the race shoes. Aside from the ALPHAFLY, I just prefer these that haven't got quite the same amount of flex. So that's my third and final half marathon shoe. Heading into the marathon now. One of the big surprise shoes of the year has been the Cloudboom Strike from On. This is mega soft, it's bouncy, it's fun and super light as well. As a marathon option, it's definitely got to be considered. The lacing, again, I have switched the laces out. These are a set from an old pair of ALPHAFLYs. The upper perhaps a tad loose for me in the toe box, but that midsole insert is absolutely fantastic. It's so fun and it's stable to boot as well. I found this shoe to be very durable as well. No issues in terms of the outsole rubber so far. The upper material reminds me of the Vaporfly Next Percent, the original version, and everything here has just been well crafted. Easily the best On shoe that I've tried out so far. It's so light, this thing. Did pick this one up with my own cash, 260 quid, which is a lot of money, but I feel that for the marathon distance that On have really hit the spot with this one. It feels just as good or maybe even better than some of the competitors at marathon pace for me, and I love the lower drop, which just seems to get more midsole underneath my foot. So that's the first of my marathon selections. When I compiled this list, I thought, if I was going to run a marathon right now, what would I use? And the Farstar Nitro Elite 2 would be in there. This shoe has something that the others do not, and that is not just increased width here in the forefoot, but also increased length as well. That means I feel it's going to be a little bit more forgiving for runners when the form starts to dip later in the marathon race. The foam here is super squashy and compressive. There's nothing quite like this Nitro Elite stuff from this year. Just rolls you forward onto that very wide forefoot area. The upper, again, is glove-like. It's almost like a football boot, actually. I love it. It's really easy to get a good lockdown with the stock laces as well here in the Farstar Nitro Elite 2. A little bit more available, this one. You can find these actually on discount sometimes. I think there was a really good one in my recent running shoe bargains video for November, but for the marathon it would certainly be one I would consider at this present time. We got one more for you. Last shoe in the list is the ALPHAFLY 3 from Nike. This will absolutely be in contention for the Manchester Marathon in April 2025. Really can't wait for that event, actually. Been wanting to get back to that marathon distance for some time, and it will be great to be running it with my good buddy Rob Gundry. This is a shoe I needed some time to come to terms with, to understand, and to get the best out of it, really. But on longer runs and even shorter recoveries, it's just so good in terms of how forgiving the midsole is. It's kind of addictive to use. Yes, I know it's a very expensive shoe, but I feel if you do give it a bit of TLC then you'll get loads and loads of miles out of this, as proved with my prototype pair that's still going strong. I think the long-term durability of those AirPods is much improved now. You've got a little bit more protection there. It just makes it a shoe all of its own, and nothing else is quite like it for me. Glad that I've got a couple of pairs of these knocking around for training and for racing next year too. I'm a lucky guy. I've also found out that it works so well for me. In fact, it seems to handle various paces really well too, and that wasn't something that I could say about the previous versions of the ALPHAFLY. Not a shoe where you have to lock into a certain effort level to make it work. And of course, the heart rate lowering properties of this model have already been well documented. So that's my third and final marathon shoe for you. There's shoes all over the floor now. I'm gonna have to tidy up in here, it's a right mess. Okay, that's my full list for all the common race distances, in no particular order in most cases. What would you change? What are your selections? Let us know down in the comments. A very quick musical interlude for you. I discovered that there's a live Link Wray album that was released in August of this year. I think it's from 1978, live at the Rockplast. My word. Go and listen to Mystery Train from this one. It's the most brutal delivery of the track that I've ever heard. Link Wray's SG sounding absolutely magnificent. And there's a couple of bits of video out on YouTube as well, where he looks absolutely wonderful. He's got the leather jacket, the big shades, and he's really giving it some. Robert Gordon and Link Wray live at the Rockplast 1978. Go and check it out. Hope you enjoyed today's video, people. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like too. Drop us a comment as well to help with the YouTube algorithm. My name's Eddbud, and I'll be seeing you